when I first saw her. I never thought one person could turn my entire world upside down. Until I met her. Before Sophia, I was just drifting. I dated guys because that's what everyone around me expected. I laughed when friends asked about crushes, and I went on dates that always ended with awkward silences and half-hearted hugs. Something was missing, but I couldn't put my finger on it. At least, not until the day she walked into my life. It happened during a summer writing workshop I almost didn't attend. The classroom smelled faintly of old books and coffee, and I remember nervously fiddling with my pen as the instructor asked us to pair up for introductions. And that's when she appeared, Sophia. She had a confident smile, the kind that seemed to know secrets about the universe, and her dark hair framed her face in soft waves. When she sat next to me, I felt a spark I had never experienced before. My chest tightened, my palms went clammy, and when she introduced herself, her voice was warm, rich, and low like music I'd want to listen to forever. "Hi, I'm Sophia," she said, offering her hand. I took it, my heart stumbling inside my chest. "Emma," I replied, my voice quieter than I intended. That first hour together felt like magic. We talked about books we loved, writers we admired, and dreams we secretly held. I found myself leaning closer, hanging onto her words, mesmerized by the way her lips curved when she smiled. Every time her eyes met mine, I felt seen in a way I had never experienced before. When class ended, I didn't want to leave. She didn't either. We lingered by the door, still talking as the other students drifted away. Then she said, almost casually, "Want to grab coffee?" That's how it began. Over steaming mugs in a little cafe, I listened to her stories, watched her gestures, noticed how she bit her lip when she was deep in thought. Something inside me stirred, something I couldn't ignore anymore. I wanted to be closer. I wanted her. And that realization terrified me. That night, lying in bed, I replayed every moment. Her laugh, her eyes, the way her hand brushed mine across the table. I pressed my pillow to my chest, whispering into the dark, "What's happening to me?" The truth was whispering back, louder and louder with each passing day. "She's the reason you've never felt whole before. She's the piece you've been missing." I didn't know it yet, but Sophia was about to change everything, my heart, my identity, my entire life. The coffee that changed everything. The cafe we chose that afternoon became our place. Small, tucked into a corner street, its windows framed the world in soft golden light. The smell of roasted beans and cinnamon filled the air, and faint jazz played in the background. We sat across from each other, cups warming our hands, and for the first time in years, I felt at home. Sophia was different. She didn't just listen, she heard me. When I told her about my childhood dreams of being a writer, she leaned in as if my words were precious. When I admitted I often felt like I was living someone else's expectations, she didn't laugh. Instead, she looked into my eyes with quiet understanding and said, "Maybe you're just waiting to step into your real story." Her words lodged deep in my heart. Something about the way she spoke, soft, intentional, like she was weaving safety around me, unlocked parts of myself I didn't even know were locked away. We laughed about silly things too. Her terrible sense of direction, my inability to drink coffee without spilling at least once. She reached across the table, brushing away a drop of foam from my lip with her thumb. It was such a small gesture, but it sent shockwaves through me. My breath caught, and for a moment, the world narrowed to just her touch. I couldn't stop staring at her. Her lips. The way she smiled. The way her laughter curved like music. I wanted to know what it felt like to hold her, to kiss her, to be the one who made her eyes shine that way. Walking home later, my hands shoved into my pockets, I whispered to myself, "I think I like her." Saying it out loud made it feel both terrifying and exhilarating. For years, I had silenced that part of me, brushed it off as confusion. But with Sophia, there was no confusion. There was only clarity. She was pulling me toward something I couldn't resist. That night, I didn't sleep much. My mind replayed every smile, every glance. I remembered the warmth in her touch when her hand accidentally brushed mine, the sparks that danced through me like fire. And in that moment, For the first time in my life, I stopped running from myself. Sophia wasn't just a girl I liked. She was the reason I realized I wasn't broken or lost. I was just waiting for her to show me who I really was. She was the reason I knew I was a lesbian. The night under the stars. A week later, Sophia invited me to join her for an evening walk. The summer air was warm, carrying the faint smell of jasmine from nearby gardens. We wandered aimlessly through quiet streets until we reached the small park near her apartment. The park was nearly empty, lit only by the soft glow of old street lamps and the moon hanging bright above us. Sophia spread out her jacket on the grass, patting the spot beside her. I sat down nervously, every nerve in my body aware of how close we were. "Do you ever feel like you've been living someone else's life?" I asked suddenly. It was a question that had been building inside me ever since that first coffee. Sophia tilted her head, her gaze fixed on the stars. "All the time. That's why I try to listen to my heart, even when it doesn't make sense to anyone else." Her words struck me in ways I couldn't explain. I wanted to tell her that my heart had been screaming her name since the moment we met. But the fear of saying it out loud still wrapped chains around my tongue. Instead, I looked at her in silence. The moonlight touched her face, softening her features, making her look almost unreal. My chest ached with the urge to reach out and trace the line of her jaw, to tuck that stray strand of hair behind her ear. As if sensing my thoughts, Sophia turned toward me. Her eyes locked on mine, and the world fell away. My breath hitched as she leaned slightly closer, not enough to close the distance, but enough for me to feel the heat radiating from her. "Emma," she whispered, my name trembling on her lips. I wanted to say something back, but I couldn't. Instead, my hand inched toward hers on the grass. When our fingers brushed, it felt like touching fire and ice at once, sparks shooting up my arm, setting my entire body alight. She didn't pull away. Instead, she laced her fingers with mine, her touch gentle but sure. The park was silent except for the faint hum of the city in the distance, but inside me, everything was roaring. In that moment, I knew. I wasn't just drawn to her. I was falling completely, helplessly, beautifully in love. Later that night, lying in bed, I pressed my fingers to my lips as if trying to capture the memory of her touch. My world had been tilting ever since I met her, and now I finally understood why. Sophia wasn't just changing my days. She was changing my life. And I wanted to let her. The night after our walk, Sophia texted me, "Come over. I want to show you something." My heart thudded in my chest as I made my way to her apartment. I told myself it was casual, nothing more than two friends spending time together. But deep down, I knew better. Something had been growing between us, building like a wave that could no longer be ignored. Her apartment was warm and welcoming, the faint scent of vanilla candles filling the air. A soft playlist hummed in the background, and fairy lights twinkled along the shelves, giving the room a dreamy glow. "Hey," she greeted me with a smile that made my knees weak. "I was hoping you'd come." We sat on the couch, close enough that our knees brushed. She handed me a mug of tea, her fingers brushing mine just a moment too long. My stomach fluttered as I sipped, trying to steady myself. Then she leaned back, looking at me with those deep, searching eyes. "Emma, can I ask you something?" I nodded, my throat suddenly dry. "Have you ever wondered what it would be like to kiss me?" Her words hit me like lightning. My breath caught, my hands trembling as I set the mug down. I stared at her, my mind screaming with every possible fear and every overwhelming desire. I started, but before I could find the courage, she leaned in. Her lips brushed mine softly, testing, questioning. My entire body froze for half a second, and then melted completely. The kiss deepened, slow but full of fire, her hand gently cupping my cheek as if I were something fragile and precious. I kissed her back, pouring into it all the things I hadn't been able to say. Every fear, every longing, every buried truth. Her lips were warm, sweet, and when her thumb stroked my jaw, I felt myself unraveling. When we finally pulled apart, breathless, she smiled against my lips. "I've wanted to do that since the first time I saw you." Tears stung my eyes, not of sadness, but of relief. Relief that I wasn't imagining this, that everything I had been feeling was real, that she wanted me to. "I think you just changed everything," I whispered, my forehead pressed against hers. She laughed softly, her hand still holding mine. "Good. Because you've already changed me." For the first time in my life, I felt like I wasn't pretending. I wasn't forcing myself to fit into a mold. I was simply me, seen, wanted, loved. And all because of her. After that first kiss, nothing was the same. Every time we saw each other, there was a new electricity in the air, a pull neither of us could ignore. Texts turned into late-night calls turned into evenings spent tangled in conversation on her couch, and those evenings often ended with kisses that left my heart racing and my body aching for more. One Saturday, she invited me over again. This time, we cooked dinner together, though cooking mostly meant laughing at how terrible I was at chopping vegetables while she tried to teach me. By the time we sat down to eat, we were both doubled over from laughter more than hunger. Afterward, we moved to the couch, curled beneath a soft blanket. She leaned into me, her head resting on my shoulder, her scent, something like jasmine and vanilla, wrapping around me. My hand rested against her thigh, hesitant at first, then bolder when she shifted closer. The room was silent except for the sound of our breathing and the soft hum of music in the background. She tilted her head up to look at me, her eyes glowing in the low light. Without a word, she kissed me again, slower this time, deeper, her lips molding perfectly against mine. Her hand slid into mine, fingers lacing tight as if she never wanted to let go. My other hand found the curve of her waist, pulling her closer until there was no space left between us. The kiss grew hungrier, our breaths mingling, our hearts pounding in sync. When we finally pulled back, she rested her forehead against mine, both of us catching our breath. "Emma," she whispered, her voice husky. "You feel like home to me." Those words undid me completely. No one had ever said something like that to me before. My chest swelled with warmth, and I kissed her again, softer this time, like a promise. We stayed wrapped in each other's arms for hours, talking about everything and nothing. She told me about her dreams of traveling. I told her about the stories I wanted to write. Every word felt like another thread tying us closer together, weaving us into something unbreakable. As I drifted off against her chest later that night, her fingers gently stroking my hair, I realized something undeniable. I was in love with her. Not the kind of love that fades with time, not the shallow kind born of convenience. This was deep, transformative, terrifying, and beautiful. And I knew, without a doubt, that my whole life had changed because of her. The days turned into weeks and weeks into months. With Sophia, time didn't feel like it was passing. It felt like it was unfolding, piece by piece, into something I had been waiting for my entire life. We built a rhythm together, morning texts, late-night calls, coffee dates, weekend walks through the park, and endless hours of holding each other in the quiet safety of her apartment. Every moment with her stitched itself into the fabric of my heart. But it wasn't just the sweetness. Sophia challenged me too. She made me braver. She made me question why I had spent so long hiding myself from the truth of who I was. She reminded me that love isn't about fitting into other people's expectations. It's about finding the person who makes your soul feel alive. One evening, we sat on her balcony, wrapped in a blanket as the city lights twinkled below us. She held my hand, tracing slow circles against my skin. "You've changed me, Emma," she said softly. I looked at her surprised. "Me? You're the one who changed me. Before you, I didn't even know who I was." She smiled, her eyes shining in the glow of the city. Maybe we changed each other. In that moment, I realized how true that was. Because of her, I had finally stopped pretending. Because of her, I had found the courage to call myself what I always was, a lesbian. And instead of fear, that truth filled me with pride, with warmth, with belonging. I leaned in, pressing my lips to hers. This kiss wasn't hesitant or unsure like the first one. It was steady, certain, full of everything I felt. Her arms wrapped around me tightly, pulling me into her as if she never wanted to let go. When we parted, I whispered against her lips, "You made me see myself. You made me fall in love with who I am because you loved me first." Her smile softened, and she kissed my forehead. And I'll keep loving you. Always. Tears filled my eyes, but they were happy tears. For the first time, I wasn't scared of the future. I wasn't scared of the word lesbian. I wasn't scared of love. Because with Sophia beside me, everything made sense. She didn't just make me realize who I was. She made me want to live fully, unapologetically, and honestly. She made me a lesbian, and my whole life changed.